Toronto condo prices haven't really changed since 2019. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why that's happened, why we've had such a weird 5 years of condo price growth and decline in the city of Toronto, and everything you would need to know as a condo buyer or seller this year. My name's Tom Storey. Welcome back to the channel. If you learn anything new today, all I ask you hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed and joined our community, we're well over 12,000 people now. I'd appreciate if you hit that button. You can also book a call directly with me in the first link in the description. All right, Toronto condos. There's so much to talk about here. I've been wanting to do this video for a little while now. I haven't done a condo specific video on this channel in quite some time, and I wanted to tell you why I think the last 5 years have behaved like they have in the city of Toronto. I got my real estate license in February of 2014. So I've just come up on 10 years of selling real estate. And I remember the days it was very normal to sell someone a very nice 1+10 condo with parking for well under $350,000. And the price per square foot was like $500. Like, I remember those days very well. It really wasn't that long ago. But then very quickly, you saw prices accelerate. And even in 2017, when we had the Fair Housing Act come in, that, for the time being, at least brought down the prices of everything else, condos just blew by it. And we saw condo prices almost double in about a 5-year period. But that was a moment in time. But what about the next 5 years? Because it's been super interesting. We're selling condo properties today at prices that I probably think I would have sold them at the end of 2019, early 2020. Now, I'm pretty sure I know why this has happened. In fact, I have a whole list of reasons I'm going to go over with you. But if we just go back for a second and think about 2020. So let's start in 2020. Everything else went up in price. Condos that year, specifically in downtown Toronto, went down anywhere from 8 to 12%. Remember, everyone was leaving the city and they were never coming back. 2021, we had a rebound year. Condo prices did very, very well. And we kind of caught back up to where they were at the end of 2019 or early 2020. Now in 2022, of course, those first few months were very strong. And then the market completely fell off when all the rate hikes happened. So we had a significant decrease that year. 2023, as we know, if you watch these videos, for the first 6 months, condo prices surprisingly were pretty strong and went really well. And then they totally changed and dropped off 7 months in a row. As of filming this video in 2024, condo prices have gone up slightly. But if you take all of that data and look at everything that's happened, it's like they haven't really changed that much. So let's talk about why. Now, the obvious thing that we could all talk about is interest rates, but I'm actually going to skip that because that's so obvious. The first thing that we have to look at is the absolute mess of the pre-construction condo market, right? People were buying at 30 to 40% higher than resale condos. Then the rates went up. Even people closing on it can't close, want to assign them. There's all these things going on. Appraisals are not necessarily coming in at even what they purchased on them. Plus their interest rate is higher. And a lot of these buildings were sold to investors. So they're launching and they're new buildings in the city of Toronto. And I guess that's great because we need rental inventory. But when these buildings are launching, it's like 100 units are coming to the market at once, right? So basically, if they closed on that and they're renting it out because they don't want to take the loss right away, they're eating $1,500 to $2,000 a month just to carry this, hoping that in the future, the prices come back and they can sell it and make a profit. Then you have the investor listings, something that I've talked about in depth on this channel. Still at this moment in time, well over 60% of condos on the market in the city of Toronto are vacant or tenanted. Now, it's just pretty clear what's happening, right? Investors are the ones that have the inventory on the market. And if they're selling, it's likely interest rate related and they just want out. And marginal sellers, and I guess technically marginal buyers as well, because they're the ones buying it, they set the price, right? The desperation level or motivation of that potential seller to sell, which would then impact the next potential sale in that building. Now, we've talked a lot about the supply side so far, but let's talk about the demand side. Okay, so a big chunk of the demand that used to be in the market was investors. And we can all say, investors are gone. They've moved to Calgary. They're buying up Calgary now. And, to a point that is true. So, of course, interest rates play a part. But investors are just terrified from all the horror stories they're hearing. The landlord-tenant backlog, like you can do everything the right way. Someone can lie to you on an application, not pay rent, and then you're put in such a tough position. And I totally understand that the internet feels a certain way about people that invest in real estate. Like I get that. And then the next point is the separation in the market right now based on which buildings are under rent control and which are not. So if there was just no rent control at all, this wouldn't be a factor. If rent control covered everything, this wouldn't be a factor. But you have two different sections of the market. And I've seen this firsthand. The condos that we put on the market so far this year in buildings that are not currently under rent control are selling faster, and the buyers are very, very much aware of that. So the condo listings that were built before November 2018, which is probably 95% of what's on the market right now anyways, they're just going to take a little bit longer because the demand is higher on the buildings that are not currently under rent control. Because if you're going to be one of the few investors that's left in the market right now, you probably sway to buy the one where you're not going to be capped if you're taking on all the other risks associated with it. Then we have to discuss the price gap. Now, pre-pandemic, because I've tracked these numbers for a long time, I know for a fact that the difference between the average condo price in the city of Toronto and a detached house used to be $700,000. Now, that's still obviously a very, very large sum of money. As of right now, me filming this video, it's $930,000. I've seen it as high as $1 million at one point when condos were really down there for a period of time, but it's still significantly higher than it used to be. And you're seeing it in the market right now. All the price growth that you're seeing here in the city of Toronto so far in 2024 is mostly because more expensive detached, semi-detached freehold properties are selling. They're very much in a seller's market, where the condo market, because of the level of inventory that we have, where it's more balanced out, you're not seeing a lot of price growth across the board. So what I'm going to be watching is how big can that gap get? And if that gap gets back to $1 million or goes over $1 million, at some point, something has to happen. And it's either that the detached or semi-detached properties come down in value and get closer in that gap, or condos eventually actually start going up in price again. Maybe you're thinking to yourself like, okay, Tom, but condos are cheaper. These homes are so expensive. Who can afford them anyways? Condos are what people can afford, so that's what should be selling. And technically, you're right on paper. The issue is that typically people buying condos might be their first property or second property, but they haven't been in the market for a long time, so they don't have that large chunk of equity. These people buying the homes, even if they have dual great incomes, really good credit, like, let's be honest, unless they got money from their parents, it's likely because they've already owned real estate for a long period of time. Maybe they bought their first condo back in 2015, and it's gone up significantly since then. But if you bought your first condo in 2019 till today, sure, you've paid down some equity and you might come out a little bit ahead, but the prices haven't really changed. So a lot of this does come down to, like it always does, is time in the market. And if you bought in 2015 and sold in 2019, guess what? You got a little bit lucky. Like, that's just the truth. If you bought a detached house that year, you got even more lucky because they went up in value. But if you bought your first condo anywhere between 2019 to 2020, 2021, 2022, you haven't really seen growth. In fact, you might have seen declines if you bought it in 2021 or early 2022. All right, final two things I want to mention here in this video is you have two condo markets happening at once. And I see this firsthand. So you have the buildings that were investor-focused buildings where 70, 80% of the building is rented out. We all know the buildings that have bad reputations because of Airbnb and everything else going on. And those buildings have a reputation and they take much longer to sell and the inventory builds up. When I list a condo in a really good building that's sought after, that wasn't sold to investors and it's more owner occupied, like, they're selling really quick, even in today's market at today's interest rates with this much inventory. So if I broke down right now all the condos on the market in the city of Toronto and said to you, like, here's the batch that I actually think are interesting, that I would be interested in, or I would tell my buyers to look at, I'd say, like, honestly, maybe 30% of the inventory on the market is the section of the market that my clients would be interested in. The rest is stuff that doesn't really make sense to buy, or if you're buying with a tenant, you're assuming risk, and there's all these other factors that might come to mind. Finally, we have to discuss what could potentially happen moving forward here. I've been very clear that I don't believe you're going to see any growth in the condo market in 2024. It might jump up 1 month and then jump down, but it's not going to be a year of growth. I really don't believe that, because there's just too many investor listings, and we'll see what happens there over time. If you were to ask me, like, when do you think realistically that condo prices will go up again in a somewhat meaningful way, my guess would be mid-2025. And that's completely a guesstimate based on everything that I know. And I do believe I'm an authority on the condo market. There's very few people that have sold more than our team in the last 5 years. So we know this. We're talking with buyers and sellers right now, and everything I'm seeing at this moment in time, I don't see meaningful growth in 2024. But as we move forward, if that price gap gets bigger, if interest rates go down, if less of the investor properties are on the market, then I could potentially come to the conclusion to say, you know what? I think we're going to start seeing growth again. But I don't know. These are just my thoughts, a bit of a rambly video, but I wanted to break down everything that I've seen in the condo market over the last 5 years because we really haven't had growth. It hasn't happened. I'd love to know what you think in the comments. Let me know, good or bad. It's all good. Throw it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Tom Storey. And remember, home is where your story begins.